Hello, we've got an extremely important video that we'd like to show you today. It's the mass animal deaths that have been occurring across the world from 2008 up until March 2014. And this is fulfilling scripture. The Bible says in Revelation chapter 8 verses 8 and part of 9, the second angel sounded his trumpet, and something like a huge mountain all ablaze was thrown into the sea. A third of the sea turned into blood, and a third of the living creatures in the sea died. So this is what's happening now. Scripture is being fulfilled, and this video is extremely important.
The video is 2 hours long. In the description there will be timestamps for each year to guide you through the video. Please share this video with your friends and family and let them know what is going on.
There's something deadly stalking these tranquil fields, a killer that has already claimed literally billions of victims and could have a devastating effect on the global food supply. Call it the case of the disappearing bees. All over the US, Canada, Brazil, and parts of Europe, bees are simply vanishing from their hives, and no one knows why. There's no shortage of theories about what's killing the little creatures. Some unknown new disease, pesticides, genetically modified foods, even cell phone transmissions. But so far, no one's found the smoking gun.
Carol's taking me to see his hives, which used to be full of bees.
And as you can see, they're desolated.
But like most keepers round here, his colony's been devastated.
They were barely sort of keeping themselves in life and limb. I found that most of them had died. There was a handful of bees left in the hive at the end there, which had got a handful of bees in, a beautiful queen in the centre. It looked super. I thought, well, I can salvage those, but they were all dead.
Less than 10 feet away from the die-off, crawling around from these other 9 hives right over here.
Alright, today is the 12th of June 2008, and I had 5 colonies. 2 remain. Within 24 hours. All 3 of these hives are completely dead.
Scientists say there are some leads into why a large number of gharials are dying in the Chambal River. Post-mortem results show that they died of renal diseases like gout and kidney failure, and these have been caused by unidentified toxins. But how did toxic chemicals reach the Chambal River, which is one of the last pristine rivers of the country? The WWF suspects that it's the toxins from the Yamuna River that are entering the Chambal's ecosystem. Most deaths have happened in the 35-kilometer stretch of the Chambal from the confluence point of the Yamuna. Possibly, the gharials have been eating the toxic fish.
The fish are migrating upstream and downstream from the Jamuna. They're coming from a polluted environment to a near pristine environment. We know there are toxics in the Jamuna, and there is a toxic element that is killing them.
During the past 6 months, there have been 4 recorded instances of mass fish deaths in the Yamuna. Scientists believe these deaths have occurred due to increasing levels of toxins in the river.
There's about 200,000 bats who typically spend the winter in this mine. And I'm afraid a very large percentage of them are going to die on us.
Across the northeastern United States this winter, researchers estimate that hundreds of thousands of bats died, and nobody knows why.
Vacationers and volunteers alike joined on a New Zealand beach Sunday in an effort to save dozens of whales that ended up stranded over the weekend.
We've been here probably about 3.5, 4 hours, and we've just been listening to instructions and trying to keep them as wet as possible and comfortable.
About 125 whales died on the beach, but the rescuers were able to coax 43 others out to sea. Conservation officials are not sure why the pilot whales ended up on the beach. They think one of the whales may have been sick and their sonar led them into shallow water.
There were plenty of people enjoying a family day out on the beach at Charlestown today, making the most of the sunshine. Take a closer look though, and the shoreline was littered with dead fish.
We hooked one on and it's on the floor right there. I think they've been eaten by the seagulls and just dropped. Yeah. Or they died of pollution or something like that. Yeah.
Has it put you off coming to the beach today?
No. Not really, no, but it is a bit funny swimming with dead fish in the water.
I mean, just coming and seeing all the kids with the dead fish. They weren't here yesterday, so there's something pretty wrong, I imagine.
The normally clear water has been turned a murky brown, caused by algal bloom. Scientists were out taking samples this afternoon to carry out further tests.
As you can see, there's fish kind of washed up on the shore. That's probably because of lack of oxygen in the water. We've been told that when the tide goes out, there's lots more as well. I suppose you'd expect that of this kind of problem.
The Environment Agency says the cause is red tide marine algal bloom due to weather conditions. People are being warned not to touch foam along the shoreline, which can irritate skin. Otherwise, it's of no great concern for humans, but devastating for marine life.
Well, thousands of fish are dead at the mouth of a shipping channel, as well as a dead whale that was reported in Venice today. The species include crabs, stingrays, eel, drum, speckled trout, and redfish. The video you're about to see is not a gravel road. Those are the dead fish. Plaquemines Parish President Billy Nungesser sent these pictures. He says that there is no testing going on to determine if the fish are dead from the oil spill, although the northern Gulf has suffered a persistent dead zone of low oxygen, blamed on nutrient-rich runoff from the Mississippi River. Nungesser says that this is different because usually the kills happen to only 1 or 2 species of fish.
What do you make of this fish kill that happened in Plaquemines Parish over the weekend?
There was some redfish that died in this particular case. Not a whole lot of them. They were kind of scattered, which again indicates probably an oxygenation problem. One dolphin in it, but that could be natural mortality. I mean, those are lung-breathing animals. They don't breathe by gills, so a low oxygen problem in the water would not affect the dolphin. There is another possibility that the microbes and the bacteria that have been eating some of this oil, maybe that caused the oxygenation problem.
This is amazing. All these seashells in millions are coming on the beaches of Pakistan, Karachi, and usually these creatures live right underneath the ocean, on the ocean floor. And what I don't understand is why these creatures are all of a sudden appearing here on Karachi beach. These seashells are coming every day on the ocean, like on the beach here. And there are, as you can see here, millions, and there are piles of seashells lying around here. All right, here you go. You can see how they're, they keep cleaning and they keep coming back.
Something besides oil washed ashore along a section of beach in Gulfport today. Construction workers at Jones Park called WLOX this morning with news about a fish kill. Steve Phillips checked it out for us and joins us in the studio tonight with more details. Steve?
Jeff, we actually smelled the problem before we saw it this morning. Dead menhaden, or pogies, washed ashore along the beach. The large fish kill created quite the mess. Piles of the small silvery fish cover much of the shoreline just east of Jones Park, from 15th Avenue to Moses Pier. While many lie baking in the late morning sun, others are pushed ashore by the gentle surf. It might make sense to blame the oil spill for the fish kill, or at least consider oil or dispersants in the water for the death of these pogies. But Harrison County's Sand Beach director isn't so sure.
Probably red tide. It's possible it could be something oil related. It's hard to say right now, but DMR is going to be sending personnel out here to make that determination, and it's important. If it's oil related, then the contractor working for BP would be responsible for picking up. If it's not, then we'll dispatch county crew down here to get it.
And tens of thousands of dead fish wash ashore along the Delaware Bay in South Jersey. This is a mess that you have to see to believe, and it has beachgoers worried. Many of the dead fish have washed up on Hyes Beach in Middle Township, New Jersey. Environmental officials don't know how or why the fish died. NBC 10's Doug Schimel is there live tonight. So, Doug, what do they know at this hour tonight?
Well, you know what? Not a whole heck of a lot. And this is a massive fish kill and affects anybody who lives or vacations along this stretch of the bay. It can be more than 10 feet wide as you go south toward Cape May. If you're upwind as we are, it's tolerable. But when the wind changes, it creates a huge, unmistakable concern for anyone around here. Once you figured out what it was, the smell hit you.
Garbage. It's fish, so it's going to smell really bad.
All of this greeted Christine Cummings on her Wednesday morning beach walk.
It looked like a foam, actually. It was out there. And a little further down, we saw a couple of fish. Like, oh, that's a shame. It's a couple of... Then we realized, no, it's all fish.
All along Hyes Beach on the bay side of Middle Township, Cape May County, New Jersey, tens of thousands of what residents say are small bunker, a bait-type fish, all dead.
It's scary, because we were swimming in this all... So far, we've been here since last Friday, and it's been wonderful, nice and clear.
As you head south toward Villas, New Jersey, the massive fish kill drops down to 3 to 4 feet wide. And what should have been a feeding frenzy for seagulls, they won't touch.
I haven't seen anything like this. I'm concerned about what's killing the fish. I'm worried about what caused this.
New Jersey environmental officials are analyzing oxygen levels in the water, but they say samples so far do not show the typical causes of fish kills like red tide. So until there's some resolution, the residents and the renters are staying out of the bay and away from Dino Castellani's favorite pastime.
Another small life lost on the vast Kazakh grasslands. Officials estimate that in the last 2 weeks as many as 12,000 Saiga antelope have died.
No one can understand what's happened because we see dead animals concentrated in a certain area.
Samples taken from the dead animals suggest that a lung infection may be to blame. The government is baffled.
This phenomena took place not only in the area where mass death of Saiga antelope took place, it also happened in another district some time ago where strange white fog was seen.
Hunted to near extinction in the last century, the Saiga are still classified as critically endangered. And as their numbers plummet once again, this graceful sight is becoming ever rarer. Wendy Urquhart, BBC News.
Massive fish and bird kills in Arkansas. Up to 5,000 blackbirds just fell from the sky in the town of Beebe. This happened just before midnight on New Year's Eve. And then tonight, we're learning that some 100,000 fish have washed up on the shores of the Arkansas River, which is about 125 miles from where the birds fell. And joining us now by phone from Little Rock is Keith Stevens. He's the spokesman for the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. Keith, Jackie Jarris also here with us. What is going on here? These are two very unusual circumstances.
Pretty strange things going on here in Arkansas. Unusual events that we don't often see. We do have fish die-offs from time to time. Obviously, this is a pretty large one, so it's got our attention. The birds, that's really unusual. We've had birds that have fallen out of the sky before, but not in this number.
This is kind of weird. Two pretty strange things in 2 days.
Well, we're just waiting on the locust, I guess, to come in next.
Right?
It's just really strange to have those so close together. I hope that it's not a sign of anything, but you never know.
January 7th, 2011.
Good evening, I'm Cynthia McFadden. We begin tonight with an environmental mystery. Hundreds of turtle doves turned up dead in the parks and streets of a town in northern Italy today. And scientists don't know what killed them. Maybe not news that would normally cross the globe, except that this is at least the 6th bizarre incident of its kind in the first week of the new year. And that's not to mention all the dead crabs and fish. So what's going on?
As many as 100 dead birds have fallen from the sky in Sweden, in the latest of similarly bizarre fatalities. Residents of Fulköping found the bodies of the jackdaws on Wednesday. Investigators believe cold weather, difficulties finding food, or possible shock could be behind their deaths. The discovery in central Sweden follows similar incidents in the United States. A Kentucky woman also found dozens of dead blackbirds in her back garden. Experts have dismissed a link between the incidents as highly unlikely.
"107 pilot whales have died after becoming beached on a remote island off the south of New Zealand. Authorities were alerted when a pair of hikers discovered the whales, and about half were still alive at the time but were euthanized to ease their suffering. Time constraints and an approaching storm made it unfeasible to rescue the creatures.
tons of fish found dead in Philippines. Over 800 metric tons of milkfish and tilapia on fish farms have been discovered suddenly perished in the waters of 5 towns across Batangas province. Officials have banned the sale of the dead rotting fish, which are being cleared from the lakes and buried by the truckloads. Investigation by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, reveals that the fish suffocated from lack of oxygen brought on by climate change-related extremes of a scorching summer, followed by a sudden drop in temperatures at the onset of the rainy season.
Fish farmers in southeast China are reeling after millions of fish suddenly died over several days last week. Chinese media estimates 8 to 9 million farm-bred grass carp died along a section of the Ming River in Fujian province. The fish started dying on August 27th, first in Huangtian Town in Gutian County, then downstream in Shuikou Town. Fujian's fishery authorities said on Tuesday that low oxygen levels in the water caused by recent torrential rain was to blame. But one farmer told the Shanghai Daily that even as they pumped oxygen into the water, fish kept dying in large numbers. Some suspect pollution from nearby industrial waste is the real culprit.
With more and more mysterious deaths around the world, fish in Brazil.
107 pilot whales have died after becoming
flying low across the ground.
New tonight, a mysterious traffic tie-up just before the afternoon rush hour, and it was all because of birds. This is really weird. Hundreds of birds literally just dropped from the sky and then landed on I-95, bringing traffic there to a crawl.
Now, this happened on the northbound lanes in Laurel, and now the quest is underway to determine just what caused the mass kill-off of these birds.
You know, in Peru, environmentalists have a real mystery on their hands. Nearly 900 dolphins have turned up on a stretch of beach on the northern coast. Scientists have been testing the dolphins and trying to figure out exactly what happened. But these deaths are just the latest in a worldwide trend. In February, 179 dolphins washed ashore in Cape Cod. Then in early March, amateur video taken on a beach in Rio de Janeiro showed more than 30 dolphins on the shore there.
More
More than 800 dolphins, now more than 500 pelicans are washing up dead on the coast of Peru from Punta Negra to San Jose. It's a mystery as to why. Marine conservationist Hardy Jones recently visited this area in Peru, and he is the executive director of Blue Voice, an ocean conservation organization that protects whales and dolphins. I spoke earlier with Hardy Jones about the situation.
The pelican number is now up to 1,200. That's my latest report from Peru. And there are a variety of reasons why these mass mortality events take place. None has been defined for this particular event. But the important thing to know to get the context of this is that while this event in Peru is absolutely catastrophic, and for someone like myself who loves dolphins, it's heartbreaking, it is not unique. There are so-called mass mortality events that are taking place right now in the Gulf of Mexico and the United States waters. There have been 6,000 striped dolphins that died in Spain on 2 occasions in the early 2000s. There are dolphins dying off of Cape Cod right now. And I could give you a longer list than that, but the point is that these mass mortality events are increasing both in frequency and in virulence.
Thousands of dead fish are washing up on the beach. Vacationers and ecologists want to know why. So we sent KHOU 11 News reporter Larry Seward to find out.
What's a day at the beach?
What's the deal, Nina?
Without scenery.
I was surprised when I saw that many fish on the shore.
But this sea of shad stretched across Jamaica Beach as far as the eye can see
smells like dead fish.
Made Mark Gannon's family pause.
I hope it's nothing major. I hope the water's safe.
Is there any idea what it is?
And at nighttime, the waves pull up really far, so the fish can't handle that, so they get up on the shore.
Kids tried to explain the problem, but
the answer is not simple. In fact, it's scientific. That's where Texas Parks and Wildlife comes in.
It looks like the oxygen's pretty good right here. So.
Biologist Stephen Mitchell is studying water samples in Surfside and Galveston, analyzing pH, saline, and oxygen levels, trying to figure out why schools of shad are dying.
And when something's affecting one of them, then usually they're all getting affected at the same time because they're in such a big group together.
He suspects low oxygen is to blame, but he won't know for sure for a few days. He says there's no threat to beachgoers, but
because I imagine as it gets warmer, the smell will get stronger, and then we will likely want to go home.
On Jamaica Beach, Larry Seward, KHOU.
Hi, I'm Donna Britt.
And I'm Andre Morrow. The Isaac impact continues to torture so many in our state. Not just people, though. Like storms before, this extends well beyond neighborhoods.
Louisiana's wildlife is now feeling effects, especially in local waterways like Bayou Gula in Iberville Parish. WAP's Nick Foley got a first-hand look at the fish kill. Nick?
Yeah, Donna, large amounts of fish kill after hurricanes is nothing new in southeast Louisiana, but it certainly doesn't make the situation any easier to take for the people that depend on these fish for their livelihoods.
The fish is just starting to come back in the bayous here after Gustav. Now we're having this.
For Iberville Parish Councilman Pete Kelly, the images in Bayou Gula speak for themselves.
The wind blew the limbs in the canals and the leaves is taking the oxygen out of the water.
Kelly, who is also a commercial fisherman, can only watch as fish fight for the oxygen-filled water making its way into the bayou.
This is some fields that the water's coming out of, and it's fresh, and this water's not going to last much longer, and you're going to see all these fish die.
Hundreds of squid wash up on a Santa Cruz County beach. It is a mass stranding, but why it's happening remains a mystery. Good evening, everyone. I'm Carolyn Johnson.
And I'm Dan Ashley. They're called jumbo flying squid, but tonight they're dying in large numbers. And they washed up along Rio Del Mar State Beach near Aptos. That's where ABC 7 News reporter Alan Wong is live for us tonight. Alan.
Yeah, Dan, they're also called Humboldt squid.
Now, this one is much larger than the calamari you might order at a restaurant. Still has its tentacles on it, and it weighs about 7 pounds. Now, beachgoers tell us that the raccoons and the seagulls have eaten most of them out there, but you can still find plenty of them out there. It's a marine mystery. Beachcombers say these squid began washing up near Aptos on Sunday.
Oh man, there's probably thousands, you know? There's a lot of them, all up and down.
By the end of the day, most of the squid had been eaten. Norman Agillian says the seagulls have been gorging themselves.
Our dogs wanted to go after them because they're all sitting on the beach. They had their full.
Researchers with the Hopkins Marine Station at Stanford are trying to figure out why these Humboldt squid ventured out of their native waters in the Sea of Cortez near the Baja Peninsula.
This is the first time I've seen squid, and it's definitely the first time I've seen really big squid.
And these are just the babies. Adult Humboldt squid can grow to 6 feet long and 100 pounds. But researchers say all of these squid are juveniles. They were likely conceived and born in Monterey Bay and were unable to make it out to sea.
When I came yesterday, they were still alive, some of them. They were still moving in the ponds, and their bodies were all intact.
This isn't the first stranding. Researchers recorded smaller strandings over the past 2 months from Santa Cruz to Pacific Grove. Now they'll be examining the contents of their stomachs to see if they died from natural or unnatural causes.
Hey guys, this is Jason. Today's date is October 17, 2012. Guys, I'm bringing you a news article from the local news down there in Jacksonville, South Carolina. And the title of this article is entitled "Fish Said to be Still Dying in Neuse River." And it was published today, Wednesday, October 17th. And it says, dead fish are continuing to show up on the beaches and in the water of Neuse River, according to the river advocates. The Neuse River Foundation has been unable to get an accurate count of the number of dead fish, which have been dying for about 3 weeks, according to the release from the Neuse riverkeeper Mitchell Blake. He said some of the fish are floating, others are sinking to the bottom, but with a peak of 90 dead fish per foot, he estimates the total number could be in the millions, according to the release. The number could be in the millions. That's just in the last couple weeks. But I'll go and let you see that video now.
Today's the 15th of October, 2012. And you can see them swimming around with sores on their body. All those white spots, those are sores. The whole school has got it. Now, there aren't many fish left. Most of these menhaden are gone now, dead. This is the last of them. Menhaden are an extremely important species for the health of the river. Unfortunately, not only is the river unhealthy, but the menhaden are unhealthy. No surprise. And they're dying. River's dying. As I walk on out here a little bit, the camera will be a little unsteady, but look at them all. Everywhere you look. This isn't just here at my dock. This is happening all over the river. On both sides of the lower Neuse at the estuary. About 40 square miles. 40 square miles. Think about that.
Thursday of last week, a student at the University of Guam's Marine Lab noticed a lot of dead fish along the shore in Pago Bay. He took pictures of the fish and then forwarded them to UOG Marine Lab professor Dr. Jason Biggs.
Well, one of the things that set up a red flag for me is that this is the first time it's ever been noticed for Pago Bay to have a fish kill like this.
A record number of Michigan deer are dead, victims of the viral disease EHD.
24-hour News 8 Steve Kelso is here with new numbers from the DNR now. Steve?
Yeah, you know, the agency says that they have reported more than 11,000 dead deer, but right now that may just be the tip of the iceberg. Back in September, the DNR told me they believe there were about 3,000 dead deer in the state and that the outbreak of epizootic hemorrhagic disease was just about over. Take a look at this map now. Look at the numbers of reported dead deer in just these counties. If you hunt these areas, you will see less deer this year. The DNR says there is no way to know how many deer are dead statewide because a lot of them have simply not been found. They say the actual number is much higher, but won't even hazard a guess at how much. Still, the agency is not limiting this year's hunting season, saying populations in the state remain high. They had hoped that a good freeze would take care of the midge. You may call it a gnat. He spreads this disease. The few light frosts we've had have probably hurt the midge, but they are still out there, and deer are still dropping dead. EHD outbreaks have happened in Michigan before, but never to this extent.
Actually, it's way worse than any other outbreaks. We've had a few that got up over 1,000, or maybe one that got over 1,000 a few years back, but this is by far the worst we've seen it.
Dead fish are washing up along the Lake Erie shoreline from a natural phenomenon. Elizabeth Diarora talked to experts today about this fish kill. She joins us now live at Horseshoe Pond at Presque Isle. Elizabeth, what are they telling you about the amount of dead fish? It's overwhelming, isn't it?
Sean, that's right. It's pretty unbelievable to be down here and to see all these dead fish. It's the worst fish die-off experts say we've seen in decades. And as you can see here, this is the end of product of the die-off that actually started in January.
And we're all just going to have to embrace the unique aroma of this spring here in Erie.
That aroma is the large number of fish that are dead, and it's not the most pleasant smell.
Horseshoe Pond has seen the worst of the die-off, but there's some in the water along the Bayfront Parkway.
This die-off started under the ice cover of Presque Isle Bay. When the ice melted, I think that's when the public first started noticing the dead fish. And as you can see, they've really accumulated and piled up along the shoreline, and this is the end product.
Grazio says the gizzard shad are not tolerant to cold temperatures, and they died as a result of natural temperature stress because they are a more southern fish.
Millions of fish are washing up dead on the banks of creeks and rivers here in the east. Over the last few days, several of you have reached out to us after finding them. Erica Anderson has more on what's causing the problem.
The last thing you expect to see while walking your dog, hundreds of dead fish. Well, that's what many people like Heather Garish, who live on Blunt's Bay, have been watching for days.
Definitely fishy. I seen it in February and didn't really think much of it. And then I seen it again this year, or late this year, with the ulcers on it, and it made me worry.
And she wasn't alone. On Thursday, the State Department of Environment and Natural Resources says this latest fish kill involves millions of menhaden fish. The department says the fish are washing up on the Tar-Pamlico River basins in Beaufort County and along the Neuse River from Union Park to the Slocum Creek.
A discovery off the coast of Chile that has baffled authorities. Thousands of langoustines washed up in central Concepcion province. Beaches have been covered red as the Dublin Bay prawns were found. Investigators are trying to find out what has killed so many crustaceans in this case. It's too early to say whether it is natural death or an environmental crime, but police are not ruling out anything. Officers are due to go out into Coronel Bay to work out the sea temperature, electric conductivity, and most importantly, levels of oxygen. In recent years, a number of dead sea creatures have washed up on South America's Pacific coasts. Environmental experts say some possible explanations could be viruses, offshore oil exploration, and poisoned food sources.
Beachgoers down south who've had a gutful of dead fish washing up on our shores are taking matters into their own hands. They're collecting specimens for independent testing as the scale of the mystery continues to grow.
There are plenty more fish in the sea, but beachgoers fear far too many are washing up dead.
There was dead fish floating by in the water. Looked like they were pretty freshly dead as well.
Thousands of fish have littered the coast in recent weeks and locals are demanding answers.
What I'd like to see happen is some really rigorous testing done of the water and of the fish.
Some surfers are determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, collecting fish for independent testing.
I notice the fish are starting to get bigger and bigger. We've started out with very small fish and now we're finding snapper and whiting, and I've never seen that before in my life.
They say the water's taking its toll on surfers too.
One other surfer had to have a day off work the other day because his eyes were burning so much.
As the size of the fish continue to grow, so too does the area they're being found in. Beachgoers say they've seen dead fish wash up as far south as Sellex Beach to here at Hallett Cove.
Fisheries experts are investigating what caused the death of thousands of fish on the Eyre Peninsula. The juvenile leather jackets have washed up along a 10-kilometre stretch of beaches south of Port Neale over the last week.
Absolutely incredible. I've never seen a fish kill like it in all my time travelling around the countryside.
Authorities believe unusually strong winds over several days may have caused the mass kill in the remote coastal area. Samples of the fish have been taken and a cause of death should be known within days.
Crews are working to pick up dead fish along Mississippi's coast. A large amount of fish washed up yesterday in Harrison County, Mississippi. When the oxygen level is low in the water, the fish come up next to the shoreline to try to get air where they die. Marine Resources say if the fish are still alive, they are safe to eat, but if the fish have washed ashore.
Today is July the 1st, 2013. This is Gulfport. It's a bad fish kill, and I'm just gonna walk with the camera. And I am stepping on dead fish. It's crazy.
They're dead, they smell, and one local community had to share their beaches with them. Thousands of fish washed ashore on Pawleys Island today, prompting many of you to come to us to get answers. WMBF News reporter Ken Baker has new details about what may have caused this.
Now, when you go to the beach, this isn't what you expect to find. Take a look at this. Hundreds of dead fish covering the shore, and this is exactly what people in Pawleys Island woke up to this morning.
We came down to the beach for the day just to have a nice day on the beach, smell this fish smell. Came down to look for shells and all these fish dead.
It's like really weird. Like, I don't know what could have caused it.
That's exactly how many people who live on Pawleys Island felt as they looked at the shoreline. Hundreds of dead menhaden fish stretching 1.5 miles long. And Pawleys Island isn't the first place this week to see the dead menhaden fish on their shore. Last year, an influx of starfish were found on the same beaches.
It's a shame. I don't know what's causing it.
It may be confusing to the people who live nearby, but Fanning says the state is looking into what may have killed the fish. DHEC and DNR visited the area today and took water samples. No results were available, but experts think a lack of oxygen in the ocean is what caused the dead menhaden to wash ashore.
Environmental officials in California say there's been another highly troubling report about what's going on in the Pacific. The scientists call it the sea star wasting syndrome. That's the technical name, but something is killing the starfish, and they don't know why. They've been dying in record numbers on the West Coast, including parts of Washington State, all along the coast down to California. Our report tonight from NBC's Miguel Almaguer.
In the waters off Monterey Bay, an urgent expedition is underway. This is the hunt for a killer.
It's happened so rapidly that some species are just missing.
Marine biologist Pete Raimondi is searching for clues to an epidemic named starfish wasting disease, infecting waters from Alaska to Southern California, causing millions of starfish like this one to fall apart and melt away.
Our group is looking to try to map the timing of the onset of the disease and locations of the disease up and down the coast so it will help us point to causes.
The die-off has decimated the starfish population in this cove. 2 species that used to thrive here have now vanished.
Sea stars, commonly known as starfish, are natural predators, feeding on mussels and clams that can overpopulate and tip this fragile ecosystem out of balance.
Are you worried this could be the canary in the coal mine?
Absolutely. We've got a holding tank. Dr. Michael Murray says the disease has even penetrated the filtration system at the Monterey Bay Aquarium.
So we draw our water in out of Monterey Bay. Whatever it is that it must be in the water is affecting our animals as well.
It's happened before. In the 80s and 90s, starfish wasting disease knocked out pockets of these creatures in these very waters. But nothing has ever been seen quite like this.
Now scientists are focusing on warmer water, lower oxygen levels, and ocean acidification as possible causes. But nothing is off the table.
I mean, I've had probably 100 emails thus far saying, well, what about Fukushima because of radiation? We haven't ruled that out yet, but we're clearly not ruling that in.
The mysterious disease has now spread to at least 10 species of starfish, and it's threatening more every day.
A grim sight on the picturesque beaches near Chile's northern city of La Serena. Around 600 dead birds and marine animals, among them some rare species, have been washed up along the coast in recent days. And police and biologists want to find out why, though they have their suspicions.
We are working to determine whether what happened here was due to explosives or not. This is an issue with sea lions because of the damage they cause the fishermen's nets. But what local residents say is that explosives are no longer used.
What's in the water? People shocked to see parts of the Inner Harbor turn milky white and green as hundreds of dead fish float to the surface. WJZ's live Megan McCorkle has been down at the waterfront as experts search for what's causing it. Megan.
Vic, preliminary tests show little to no oxygen in the water. Now experts are trying to find out why. Right in the shadow of the National Aquarium, a troubling sight on the Inner Harbor.
It was white, chalky, looked almost like weird pool water.
From Sky Eye Chopper 13, you can see the murky green water spilling out from the Jones Falls into the Inner Harbor.
This lighter green colored water that you can see contrasted against the harbor has moved about another 100 yards into the harbor.
At least 200 dead fish have floated to the surface.
We collected water samples today. We'll be doing more tests on those tomorrow.
The Maryland Department of Environment hazmat team is investigating the cause and says the recent heat wave could be a factor.
It's probably a sequence of events that has to do with too many nutrients being in the water that creates a series of reactions and events that leads to there being no oxygen in the water.
All right, now to a mystery that has rocked the world of honeybees. Millions of bees simply dying or just disappearing, leaving no empty hives, no honey.
And it's a trend that experts say is getting worse and could mean shortages of honey and lots of other popular foods that we eat. Here's ABC's Devin Dwyer.
For 63 years, Charles Smith's hives have been buzzing with millions of bees.
They do sting sometimes. It's hard work, but you gotta love it.
A booming business renting out bees to pollinate fields of blueberries and apples. But then last winter, many of his swarms suddenly went silent. The bees gone without a trace.
We lost almost 50% up in this area. The bees were all just gone. I mean, It's like the bee can't find his way back home.
It's a mystery that's puzzled beekeepers everywhere, even spurring talk of a bee-apocalypse. A stunning 1 in 3 U.S. bee colonies disappeared last winter with no clear explanation of why. Scientists say another big loss this year could devastate the American food supply.
Fewer bees mean fewer pollinators to help plants produce their fruit. That could mean shortages of foods like broccoli, celery, even avocados.
And about 1 in every 3rd bite that we eat, all the fruits, nuts, and vegetables that really kind of enrich our diet, those are the things that are at risk.
Jeff Pettis is the government's top bee researcher. He says the disappearance of bees is getting worse.
So how healthy is this colony?
It's reasonable, it's not great.
At his USDA research lab, Pettis has found plenty of clues, from pesticides and blood-sucking mites to viruses and disease, but no smoking gun.
Animals are mysteriously dying left and right in China, and no one knows why. This time it's 289 pigs and 89 dogs in Luoyang City in western Henan province. They reportedly all died suddenly on Monday for no known reason. According to this local media report, tests have ruled out that the animals died because of bird flu. The H7N9 strain has killed 16 people out of 77 reported human cases. But whatever killed the pigs and dogs in Dongtun village remains a mystery. One local also said that dogs that weren't killed are dying. They suspect a gas leak from a nearby chemical plant killed them. Locals have been complaining that a bad smell in the air had gotten especially bad. The mysterious animal deaths follow close on the heels of the sudden appearance of 16,000 pig carcasses in a major Shanghai river, over 1,000 birds and ducks turning up dead throughout China, and a quarter of a ton of dead fish washing up also in Shanghai.
Biologists are trying to unravel a mystery in northeastern New Mexico. More than 100 elk found dead on a ranch about 20 miles north of Las Vegas. The news comes as a shock to game and fish investigators and to hunters just days away from hunting season. News 13's Tina Jensen has the story.
Sky News 13 flying over a gruesome discovery on the sprawling 75,000-acre Buena Vista Ranch near Mora. A massive die-off of more than 100 elk within 1 square mile. The elk weren't shot, so Game and Fish is investigating just what caused the deaths, which seemed to happen overnight. Their top suspicion? Something called epizootic hemorrhagic disease, or EHD. The often fatal disease is caused by insect bites.
An elk could get a fever. It's usually a pretty fast illness, and up to 8 to 36 hours later, the animals go into shock and then they die.
It's a very sad moment for us, but I think for the animals, the best is to put them off their misery.
We sent 2 of our most experienced staff out there to make an assessment of whether we believed a reef float was possible, but unfortunately, considering where they were on the beach and the weather conditions today, we just didn't believe that reef floating was a viable option.
At least 16 people are receiving antiviral treatment after coming into close contact with bats affected by the weekend heatwave in southern Queensland. Up to 100,000 flying foxes may have died during the extreme weather. Josh Bavis reports it's causing a problem for residents and councils.
In Boonah, the stench of rotting carcasses hangs in the air.
I couldn't describe a smell that bad, so continuously.
Like death. That's what it smells like. It's bad.
Council teams have so far cleaned up about 2,500 dead bats here and expect to collect more. When the heatwave peaked on the weekend, thousands of bats fell from the sky.
We're all sitting around having lunch and it flew into the tree next to the back deck and took its last breath and screamed and fell on the deck in front of everybody.
It wasn't an isolated case. The RSPCA says up to 100,000 flying foxes may have died at about 25 locations across southern Queensland, including the Lockyer Valley, Sunshine Coast and Western Brisbane.
Marina under fire again after as many as 100,000 fish have been found dead in that lake. Coloway Newshouse Catherine Van joins us live in the studio tonight to tell us a little bit more about what's going on at the marina. Catherine?
Pat, that's almost all the fish in the lake. In fact, the Nevada Department of Wildlife tells me there's less than 25 fish still alive in the lake. I was just at the Sparks Marina last week asking experts about the health of the lake, and to which they say it's not a concern. But thousands of dead fish seem to say otherwise.
It's kind of alarming. I'm kind of surprised and a little shocked to hear that.
I'd like to know what's going on.
Those poor fish. What was once home to millions of fish has turned into a watery grave, now taking the lives of more than 100,000 fish.
What we found is we have water with little oxygen in it, and we have water that has basically no fish in it as of this point.
Initial reports of these deaths were made just before Christmas when about 3,000 dead fish washed up on shore. But now the problem spread to the rest of the lake, causing the rest of the fish to sink to the bottom.
Some environmental factors combined to create a situation where the oxygen went very low, and for some reason it still has yet to recover.
Thousands of fish mysteriously turning up dead on the shoreline here after our recent deep freeze. As Channel 3 New London Bureau Chief Kevin Hogan explains, a perfect storm is to blame.
This massive kill wasn't caused by anything toxic or man-made, it was natural. The carcasses of hundreds of striped bass still line the banks in the marsh of the Black Hall River in Old Lyme 2 weeks after a deep freeze. This is what neighbor Fred Chavois saw when he looked out of his window January 3rd.
We thought maybe there was something in the snow, fell in the water. I don't know.
But thousands.
Yeah, thousands. And the birds are all over them. But since I didn't know what killed them, I didn't want to eat any of them.
So what did snuff out a generation or two of stripers? We asked state environmental expert Dave Simpson.
It's cold shock. Striped bass exposed to a sudden change in temperature, as we had a couple of weeks ago during that cold snap in very shallow water, simply succumb. They have no place to retreat to.
At the time, the tide was astronomically high. As it receded to a very low tide, the freeze hit, and the fish couldn't swim out to deeper water, and they were trapped.
Good evening. More than 100 volunteers trekked for an hour to reach dozens of stranded whales today and worked all day trying to save them. The pod of 63 was stranded in hot, dry conditions at Farewell Spit. 21 more died, and the rest, after initially being refloated, have just started to strand themselves again. Jane Luscombe reports.
As daybreak arrived at Farewell Spit, the sun's rays lit up a bleak scene. Dozens of pilot whales stranded and only a handful of people to help. There was no way they could save them. The task was simply too big.
There's 73 animals up there. I don't know how many are alive.
And then the cavalry appeared.
People had just beaten their feet and got out here, come prepared with wetsuits, so yeah, we could just give them a briefing and they got straight onto the whales, and yeah, it worked really well.
They trekked 5 kilometres up the beach to help. By high tide, the sands were swarming. More than 100 volunteers and 11 Department of Conservation rangers with one aim. As the volunteers worked, they were rewarded with signs of life.
It just beats you emotionally. You're just killed, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, you start to see them swim off there, and it just feels good.
But even with the extra numbers, it wasn't easy. The whales were scattered over 1.5 kilometres. Some headed off in the wrong direction before they could be reached and guided. The rangers used boats to steer them away from the beach. At least 6 were visibly unwell, swimming on their sides. 21 died, but 63 were back where they belong. Their efforts, though, may have been for nothing. An hour ago, the whales began to strand again. Jane Luscombe, 3 News.
As we left it last night, there were 14 pilot whales in the area around Lovers Key. And 4 of those whales died. 2 were humanely euthanized and 2 died of natural causes. This morning we had teams get out and a helicopter go up to try to locate any additional animals, and we did recover 2 additional dead animals, and then came across 2 animals that were live stranded in about 6 inches of water and in very, very poor condition. And unfortunately those animals did have to be euthanized as well. So we had a mass stranding in December off of Everglades, and then of course we have this mass stranding right now. Now there were 23 whales that were sighted initially on Sunday down by Marco Island in the Naples area. They were last sighted last night, and we have confirmed through photo identification of their dorsal fins that those individuals were not the same individuals that stranded in the Everglades. These 14 whales around Lovers Key, we have not completed the photo identification matching yet, so we don't know if any of these 14 individuals are related to the animals that stranded in the Everglades. So these could be 2 completely separate groups of whales mass stranding within a month of each other, and that would be rare. The last mass stranding prior to the December event was in Fort Pierce, Florida in 2012. There was also a stranding in Cudjoe Key down in the Florida Keys in 2011. Prior to that, the most recent previous mass stranding was in 2003.
Scientists are trying to solve the mystery of the dead birds tonight.
Hundreds of them died in the same place, same time in Burleson this morning. Channel 8's Jim Douglas has been looking into it.
The scene prompted a lot of calls from motorists. Dead starlings and grackles scattered on and around the I-35 South Service Road at Alsbury Boulevard.
The ones we found in the grass did not have any signs of trauma that we could see.
Burleson Animal Control picked up just over 200 dead birds.
Tonight, more pilot whales are found dead off the coast of southwest Florida. Today, boaters found the remains of 25 pilot whales on an island near Marco Island. They appeared to have been there for about 24 hours and were part of a pod first seen Sunday. The whales were discovered 2 days after the deaths of 8 pilot whales near Lovers Key. That's about 40 miles north. What killed them still remains a mystery.
Now to a bizarre story. Hundreds of dead fish are surfacing in a popular fishing spot on the Kings River. Action News reporter Rick Montanez is in Kings County with what state fish and wildlife wardens think killed all those fish.
The hundreds of dead fish began showing up earlier this week, and fish and wildlife officials think it may be something missing from the water.
Several clusters of dead, decomposing carp line this segment of the Kings River. The rotting fish leaving a strong, disgusting odor in the air. Fish and wildlife officials surveyed the area Wednesday evening.
What we think happened is the fish kind of got concentrated in this one area because of the low flows. And when you get this many fish in one small area, the dissolved oxygen in the water becomes an issue, and basically the fish suffocate.
Along a strip of Peru's northern coast, the dolphins were lying dead. More than 200 carcasses washed up on the shore. They were to be added to a toll which now counts 400 dolphins found dead since the beginning of the year. No one knows why. This is not the first time scientists find large groups of dolphins dead in Peru's coast. Last year, hundreds of them were found in the same area in northern Peru. Officials were never able to determine the exact cause of death. Experts say the mammals could have eaten particles of plastic now polluting the Pacific. Or the dolphins may have eaten fish carrying deadly toxins.
Because this has happened to a group of dolphins that don't show any sign of human participation in the deaths, the investigation is much more complex.
Instead of fresh air, joggers and cyclists using the Bishan Ang Mo Kio Park on Wednesday morning had to breathe in the stink of rotting fish, as hundreds of them were found belly up in the river and along the banks. PUB posted on their Facebook page that the fishes could have died from a lack of oxygen in the water. The board added that laboratory tests found that the water is not contaminated. Contractors cleaned up about 400 fish from the park.
You're watching Singapore Tonight. Welcome back. More than 20 fish farms along the East Johor Straits have reported incidents of fish dying just before the start of the Lunar New Year, and this has caused an estimated loss of more than $3 million. According to the Agri-Food and Veterinary Authority, this could be due to low levels of oxygen or a phenomenon known as the plankton bloom, caused by the hot weather and neap tide, which is when high tide is at its lowest level. Some of the farms claim to have spotted about 200 to 300 dying fishes. AVA said it had earlier advised coastal fish farms in the Straits of Johor to take precautions for the neap tide this weekend. It's also advising farmers how to mitigate losses while it continues to monitor the situation.
So we come along to the Wales Management Department of Conservation in this case, and we're asked, we wish to be able to give thanks for the whales and wish, just like what we would with our human friends that have passed on, a blessing to the whales and wish them well on their last journey, their final farewell. So basically it's a farewell to our friends, our cousins through genealogy, because we know that Māori believe that all animals and humans are related. So for us it's giving them a decent farewell on their final journey, and a prayer and karakia.
Weeks have passed since Korea was first hit with a bird flu outbreak that has since led to the culling of millions of ducks and chickens. The issue had dropped out of the headlines just days before, but concerns are mounting that quarantine efforts have failed to completely eradicate the virus. Korea's Agriculture Ministry said Sunday that poultry are being culled at a farm owned by the National Institute of Animal Science in South Chungcheongnam-do Province after a duck was confirmed to have died from the H5N8 strain of the virus. This isn't the only case, as reports of another outbreak in the nation's southwestern South Jeollanam-do Province led to the culling of 70,000 birds. The total number of birds destroyed from this year's outbreak now stands at above 6.5 million.
The Keller family has about 1,800 beehives on dozens of different sites around Hancock County. But after this cold winter, they don't expect to find even half of them still alive.
Once they get too cold, they're cold-blooded. Once their body temperature drops off, they'll just drop in the snow.
Lyle Keller has been a beekeeper for more than 3 decades. This is setting up to be one of his toughest years.
But they're dead. They're dead. They're dead. When you start losing 50 or 60% of your total numbers, it's you just don't recover from that very quickly.
We were with him today as he checked on some of his hives.
The bees need to get out every 4 to 6 weeks to fly, to kind of cleanse themselves. And this winter's been, they just haven't had the cleansing flights. They've been under snow and stuff, and it's just really rough on them. And plus the extreme cold.
In addition to the extreme cold, Keller says pesticides and the lack of a quality food source are 2 of the main reasons for the population decrease.
Well, 25 years ago, if we had a 5% winter loss, that was a bad year. And now you're talking 50% winter loss. I'd be happy with that.
All right, one of the greatest ironies in nature is that for all of her beauty, she sometimes shows us a glimpse of her brutal and sort of unforgiving alter ego, you might say.
Yeah, sadly, all of us in Western New York are getting a close look at that side of nature right now.
Yeah, Terry Belke explains as he takes us to the outdoors.
This duck die-off is unprecedented. Biologists who've been here for 35 years have never seen anything like this.
The Western New York region is bearing witness to a quiet but devastating ecological disaster. The harsh and seemingly endless winter has been the root cause of death for thousands of ducks from Rochester to the Niagara River.
This has never been documented in the past. So for as cold as people believe the winter has been, it in fact has been that cold because it's verified by the fact that this abundant wildlife population cannot survive this winter.
The massive die-off was first noticed by local birders in mid-January. When the New York DEC went out to investigate, the situation had already reached a serious stage.
It wasn't until the middle of February, about a month later, that I went out and investigated it myself. And in fact, it was worse than I could have expected. I thought it was going to be bad, and it was worse than that.
Climate is changing, and it's changing at an unprecedented rate from all the research that's been done. And this is causing us to have more pressures on our wildlife faster than what many of them can adapt to.
Taking you to the outdoors, I'm Terry Belke.
shine.